My name is Giusti, and I'm teaming up with Real Driven to share my story about recovery and navigating through change. Before I get into my story, I want to share a little bit of background information about myself. I'm 22 years old and I'm from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I'm currently finishing up my bachelor's degree at The Ohio State University. If you know me, you know that sports are and have always been a huge part of my life. From being a fan to growing up playing every sport and now to even working in the industry and hoping to make a career out of it, you could say that I eat, breathe, and sleep sports. And the one sport I decided to go with was softball in high school, and it was a huge part of my life, even though I wasn't the best player on the team. I still went to practice every day and really enjoyed being active. And as a 17-year-old, when my accident happened, all I really knew was uh, going to school and playing sports and hanging out with my friends. And there was not much more to life than that. But the 2 weeks before the start of my senior year of high school, five of my buddies and I took one of their boats out, just rode it through the intercoastal, and it was a beautiful night. And on our way back in, the tide had risen. I'm not exactly sure how it happened, but we crashed into a bridge, and I landed in the water. One of my friends was killed on impact, and another one of my friends is still working on walking again. And the only thing I do remember from the actual accident was hearing, saying, I can't feel my legs, I can't feel my legs. And my friend had jumped into the water, and he told me that they were coming, he meant help, and he was able to call for help. And I just remember not being able to feel my legs. And next thing I knew, I woke up in the hospital, and the first thing I heard was, "Do not move, you will be paralyzed. Do not move, you will be paralyzed. Do not move, you will be paralyzed," over and over and over again. And I can't tell you how many times those words have replayed through my head in the past 4.5, almost 5 years. But it turns out, from head to toe, I had fractured my skull, broken my neck, broken my back, lacerated my kidney, had multiple places of internal bleeding, broke my chest, broke my hand. And I honestly think that's it. But the two most, the worst injuries were my kidney and my back. So I had two burst fractures in my L2 and my L5 in my lumbar and my spine. But because my kidney was bleeding, that was my first surgeries, and that was the most important thing to stop the bleeding. And after that was cleared up, I was sent straight into back surgery, where they ended up adding two 15-inch rods and 8 screws into my back to repair it. And then my road to recovery began in the blink of an eye. Not only was I coping with my own injury, but I was also coping with my friends and learning of the death of my friend. And it's a lot to take in for anybody, but especially a 17-year-old. These are the type of things you hear about on the news all the time, and unfortunately accidents happen all the time, but you never think that it's going to happen to you. But it did. It happened to me, and it happened to my friends, and it happened to my community. So from everything there on forward, it was just about navigating this new life of ours. And I say ours because there were 6 different families involved. And with that being said, so many people in our community were affected by this accident. So I want to be sensitive towards it. And recovery through physical and mental injury is very difficult, especially being so young and having to go through things so quickly, because life never stops. Life never waits for you to process things. Unfortunately, you're just gonna have to keep going, and that's exactly what I did. So I spent about a month in the hospital, a week in the ICU, another week at home, and then I was back to my senior year of high school. I started about a month late. I started with doing half days. I was in my wheelchair, and my buddies would wheel me around, and everything was okay. And I was figuring things out, just trying to graduate high school so I could go to college. At that point, I knew that I didn't have as many options, because those of you who have gone through it, you know that the first half of senior year is the most important when you're applying to schools and visiting and just making all these important decisions. But during my first semester of senior year of high school, I was relearning how to walk and dealing with a lot of physical change, and basically I was just kind of surviving. But once I got through that senior year, I decided to enroll in Santa Fe Community College in Gainesville, Florida, which was a great decision for me at the time. It was 5 hours away from home. I was recovered enough where, you know, I could kind of go away, but I was also close enough to where if anything happened, I could see a doctor or go home for a visit. Being at Santa Fe Community College, I had a lot of access to the University of Florida and their facilities. So I was in very good hands, and I was rehabbing with great people at the University of Florida Hospital, and things were going really well in that aspect. But I was really struggling internally because I hadn't really processed anything that really happened. You know, I was just so focused on physically recovering, I didn't even have time to figure out how much I had lost, and how much we had lost, all of us. It was just so horrible, and it all kind of hit me, and I felt trapped, for lack of a better word. So I remember going home to Fort Lauderdale on a weekend. We kind of surprised, my roommate and I wanted to surprise our moms, and so that's what we did. And the weekend went great, and Sunday came, and time for me to drive back to Gainesville. So I get on the highway, start the drive up, and just start sobbing. I felt that I couldn't go back, not because there's anything wrong with Gainesville or Santa Fe or University of Florida, but because I felt that I was suffocating. And although I was taking care of my physical well-being, I wasn't really taking care of my mental. And I knew that something had to change, and I didn't know what, but I eventually started looking into other schools, because my original plan was to transfer to University of Florida, but with their deal, you have to have 2 years of credits before you transfer over, so blah, 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 blah. I applied to a few other schools and ended up at the Ohio State University, which has been the best decision of my entire life. And with that being said, I think it's really important to, when you're stuck in a situation and things are not going well, you need to make a change, whether it's a daily routine change, whether it's picking up and moving, or eating habits, whatever it is. If things are not going well for you, you need to change something. And so that's what I did. And once I moved to Columbus, I was able to kind of start over. I was no longer that girl who was involved in that traumatic event, but I was just a new student. I transferred, and at a school as big as Ohio State, and in a city as big as Columbus, you're constantly meeting new people. So I was able to really become who I wanted to be without all of that baggage behind, which was really great. I started working for the university's football team, which, if you know me, is right up my alley. It's been a lifelong dream of mine to continue working in football or in sports, and Ohio State has been able to offer me that, and it has been an absolute ride and the most incredible experience being able to have. Another thing that Ohio State University offered me was therapy. So my junior year of college, it had been over 3 years since the incident, and I still hadn't approached my mental health, you know, because when life is moving so fast and you're so focused on graduating high school, getting into college, transferring, and then moving, you never really have time to slow down and process what actually happened. And after about a year of Ohio State, it was 3 years after my accident, for the first time I felt like I was finally settled in. Everything was going well, but when that happened, things started to flood because I finally had time to think about everything that happened. And one day, I just decided to call the Ohio State after hours line, and they got me in, and they actually paired me up after meeting with a PTSD specialist. So I went through a year and a half of pretty intense PTSD care, and it was life-changing in a way that I can't even really articulate in words. But with that being said, it's so important to talk about mental health and be open about mental health and be able to, I know not everybody has access, and but if that's something you do have access to, please take advantage of your university's resources, because they have them and people want to help you and there's people there to help you. And that's something that I learned, and that's something that I was able to experience. And I actually recently just finished up my treatment as last semester ended, and I would say I graduated from my PTSD program, and you're finally able to, like, it's like a weight was lifted off your shoulders. In August it'll be 5 years, and I finally feel like, I'm able to move on and figure out everything else, and I know who I am, and or at least I think I do. And going through something as significant as that can't be ignored. And although the world can't slow down for you, you can slow it down for yourself, and that's exactly what I did. I kind of put things on hold for a little bit, lightened up my schedule for school. I'm graduating in August, so I'm doing an extra summer, which, it's totally okay. After going through what I went through, I feel like it's okay that I didn't graduate exactly in 4 years, but in 4 years and a summer. I'm actually pretty proud of it. But it's so important to take care of yourselves and to come up with habits in dealing with change. It's something that we're always going to have to go through. Whether you have experienced it yet or not, you're definitely going to in the future, if you haven't yet. And it's all about how you react to a situation, because bad things are going to happen, and I can't tell you that there's always going to be a reason for it. There may be or there may not be, but good things will come out of it if you make them. And there's always going to be a battle, because life's a battle. I think it's really important to know that the world doesn't slow down for you, and we as humans have to learn how to navigate through change and to adapt and to ask for help, because it's out there. And if you or someone is going through something like this, just through mental health battles or trauma or just dealing with anything, just know that you're not alone and that the help is out there.